Hi, Laura here from The Practice. We are moving into episode 4 of The Practice Connects, which is a video series just helping to connect better personally, energetically, having a more community-oriented focus off of the mat, not just on our mats at The Practice, in taking what our ethos is and replicating or seeing what happens in real life situations. Today's topic is, thank you for the votes, talking a little bit about nervous system regulation, which is incredible that it's in the zeitgeist, it's in pop culture. Likely everything that you're seeing is very, very, very like regulate your nervous system forward. And I'm going to take this little bit of time to just explain from a somatics perspective why, how, when regulating the nervous system is an important tool that we have. So when we're talking about the nervous system, we have an autonomic nervous system, and that is branched off into our parasympathetic and our sympathetic state. So the parasympathetic is our rest, digest. Some things that you'll notice when you're in your parasympathetic state is your digestion is better, your breathing is deeper, you can feel into your body a little bit more expansive. You might notice that time slows down. Your thoughts don't necessarily slow down, but they're not on a loop. You have coherent thoughts. Your pupils are a little bit smaller because we're not looking for risk. We're in a state of, okay, I feel as safe as possible. I feel as calm as possible. And this is the state that we want to bring into our day a little more intentionally than likely what is happening. And I say this because we exist in a society that is constantly overstimulating us. And when we're in a constant state of receiving information from a chronically stressed perspective, that's when we start to feel panicked. That's when we start to feel an increase in anxiety. That's when we start to feel an increase perhaps in symptoms of depression. And it feels like things are out of our control. The flip side of that is when we're in our sympathetic state. So that is we're reactive. We're releasing adrenaline and cortisol so that we're quick to react. This is our survival state. Biologically speaking, this is an incredibly important state to exist in as well, because this ensures the survival biologically of our existence. And that's really, really important to have as well. What we're seeing is there's a disconnect in the ability to regulate. And that just means simply moving between those 2 or 3 states, depending on what theory you're working with. There's polyvagal theory, which there's a 3rd state as well. And so when we're not able to regulate, when we're staying in one state or staying in another state, that's not good. That's not ideal for our human experience. Our human experience needs to be able to be malleable. We need to be able to receive information, receive stimuli, and then have appropriate responses to that. Quite often, if we're stuck in one state or the other, our reaction doesn't meet circumstance. And quite often we see a lot of overstimulation, and that takes away our ability to see what's really there, what information is truly there, because we start to create stories around what could be. Now, I want to just mention this is like a whole massive, massive topic, and I'd love to talk so much more about it. So if you have questions, you know where to find me. But what we want to think about is our emotional processing cycle and how it relates to our nervous system regulation. And I want to be very clear, there's always the possibility for us, if we're here and we can only make little minute changes, little bit by little bit, that's progress. If we're here and we're making bigger changes, that's also progress. The intention is to allow ourselves to experience whatever it is that we're feeling, let ourselves feel it, mobilize the emotion, so mobilize the hormones that are being released, the cortisol, the adrenaline, and then be able to integrate and restore ourselves so that when we enter into the next time that we're overstimulated, we can have that pause, take pause, think about, okay, I'm feeling very reactive here. I know that this car did not mean to cut me off. They didn't mean to cut me off. It was likely an accident, so I don't need to scream at them. What could really be happening here? What is the information that could really be true here? And how am I going to respond? So let's take that as our example on how to regulate our nervous system, down-regulate our nervous system from high activation to somewhere in the middle, or perhaps even back into our rest state. So we're driving in our car, likely I'm driving to yoga because this always happens. I'm driving to yoga. I know I'm gonna have a really great experience. I'm gonna feel so rested and so good after my class. This car cuts you off. It swerves, it almost hits you. It doesn't hit you, but it almost hits you. That causes that reaction. So there's the stimulus, there's the activation. What happens is our bodies and our minds work in tandem to receive that information. That's when we feel that burst of high energy, of high activation. Maybe our shoulders tense up, we grip, we brace, we squint our eyeballs, and we're like, oh my God, like what is going on? So what do we do in that example? We recognize and realize what is going on. Okay, this person is cutting me off. I feel that activation. I need to mobilize. So instead of right away moving into our rest state, maybe you scream, which is totally fine if you're in your car. Maybe you scream, maybe you sigh, maybe you give yourself a little bit of a shimmy as long as it's safe to do so. Maybe you flutter your lips. And then you remind yourself that what is the information that is here? This person cut you off. It doesn't mean that they're an idiot. It doesn't mean that it may mean that they didn't see you. They likely didn't intend to cut you off. What's the story? We don't know what that person is going through. Maybe they're on their way. Maybe their partner is having a baby. They have to rush to the hospital. Maybe they're thinking about an email that is like so traumatic, or maybe they're really excited and they just aren't in their state of observance. Whatever their story is, whatever their truth is, has no impact on us. It may have caused an activation, yes, but what you do with that information is within your control. So you discharge that energy a little bit. You remind yourself of what is true. I'm safe. I'm okay. I'm in my car. Nothing bad happened. And you take a deep breath. And then maybe you repeat that deep breath a few times until you feel your heart rate reduce in its frequency, until you feel a little bit more grounded in your body. Now, all of this is an emotional processing cycle. We're constantly meeting information. We're receiving information through our senses. We're receiving in through our brains already. Our brains are trying to predict what's going to happen. That's just biologically, in essence, a factor of safety. We're always trying to predict when risk is going to happen. How risky is it? When do I need to protect myself? How can I survive? But our work is to recognize that, to feel it, to discharge that, and then to remind yourself that you're okay and you're safe. Now, sometimes we do that and we take ourselves really, really deep into a restful state, and sometimes we stay there. And that's not good either. Because then we lack motivation, we lack excitement, we lack things that are required in terms of our thriving. We lack the ability to think about the future. And of course, all of this is a balance. All of it is a balance of trying to figure out, if I'm present in my body, what is true here? And how do I not let my thoughts take me outside of what is present? And a lot of that has to do with the regulation of the nervous system, but also how do I interact with that information? How do I recognize what is going on? How am I aware enough in my body that I can recognize what is going on? And how do I use this cycle to my benefit. And a lot of that just comes back to be present in your body. Notice your physiological changes as you enter into different states in your day. And then ask yourself, do I feel grounded and present? And of course, all of this comes with a lot of practice, and all of this comes with a lot of history, a lot of context as well. And so if you're looking for individualized support, I would recommend reaching out to a practitioner. I am a somatic stress release practitioner, so I can help. But becoming aware is the number one step. And then being present with your physiological changes is the most critical aspect of it. Recognize, notice what you can control, let go of what you can't. And over time, your nervous system will become fluid. It will be able to become as elastic as possible to support you best in everything that will come your way. Okay, thank you. Chat soon.